Google may face antitrust investigations in Ohio and Wisconsin. It is a Bloomberg exclusive. And for more on this, we are joined by Harry First. He is a former head of the Antitrust Bureau for the New York State Attorney General's office. He is now the head of trade regulation, that program at NYU's law school. He's right beside me here in the newsroom. Harry, thanks so much for coming in and joining us to talk about this. From your standpoint, is there an antitrust legal issue with what Google is doing, or is it just all these companies that can't compete against Google in the business world want to compete in another realm and try to compete that way, try to even the score that way?
Yeah, I think both of these things may be true. There may be antitrust problems. Google has been acquiring companies. They continue to do so, and one of those acquisitions is under investigation now, the ITA acquisition. Which is a travel search company. Which is a travel search company that sells travel search information to websites that then sell or make available tickets for planes and so forth, like Expedia. So you will have competitors complaining. They're usually the ones that have the most skin in the game, so they know a lot about the businesses. There is always the concern that the competitors are using the law, particularly antitrust law, to thwart the efforts of better competitors.
But you have to prove whether a company is using its dominance in the market, right, to either restrain competition or hurt consumers. From a legal perspective, this seems like it's pretty tricky to prove, though, even no matter how well the competitors know their own businesses.
Yes, the competitors' complaints are not the end of the game, they're the start. They bring information to prosecutors. Prosecutors still have to figure out whether there's a problem, and that's really what the question is. So are the acquisitions a problem, or any of Google's business practices a problem? And that's still yet to be seen.
We know Google has about 65% of the search market. You alluded to this potential purchase, which is sort of a step into the online space. There's also a concern about mobile. I mean, from your view, your expert view, does Google have to be concerned? In other words, is it right that people are complaining and bringing up these concerns against Google?
Yes, this clearly is a concern, because Google does have some degree of monopoly power in the businesses in which it operates, particularly in online search, and they can exercise that power in various ways to impede their competitors and exclude them. So when a company gets large as Google is, and as sort of ubiquitous as Google is, and all consumers, or most people use it, there's a concern about it.
What's the message here? I mean, you can build a successful business, but it just can't be that successful?
You can build a successful business, and you can continue to build it as long as you do it properly. In other words, you don't engage in behavior that uses that power to exclude competitors. So Google's entry, for example, into mobile search, it acquired a company called AdMob. That passed perfect muster. No one complained about it. The FTC looked at it. Fine. Google's a vigorous competitor. They have the Android operating system. Great. That offers competition to the iPhone. So it can be very good. Google offers a lot of good products. They just can't exclude competitors, and that's going to be a question for these probes, whether there is that sort of behavior.
So, Harry, because you know so much about this, I mean, what happens next, right? We've heard from Ohio potentiality, Wisconsin a potentiality, Texas, where it all started for Microsoft, is also questioning Google. How many more states are going to join? What is the sequence of events?
Well, that's a really good question. What should be happening now is that the states that are investigating are issuing legal process to get information from Google and assess the strength of their case. The states also operate together in what's called multi-state actions, and the question is whether there will be states operating together and bringing some sort of joint litigation. They will bring suit in federal court under federal antitrust law. If they do, in the Microsoft case, the sort of the clearest example, 21 states filed initially. So there was a lot of agreement among the states that this was a case worth pursuing.
Can the states kind of hold the U.S. Department of Justice feet to the fire?
Yes, it depends on where their feet are. They have to be close to the fire to hold them to the fire. So they're investigating the ITA acquisition. Sometimes, again, Microsoft's the example, I think, the states try to incentivize through stories in the press that they're moving on it to incentivize the federal government to be aggressive as well, and to think about bringing these suits. We have now an administration in Washington, the Obama administration, that says it is interested in vigorous antitrust enforcement. So they're
that's
not
a climate issue.
That's a good. Yeah, they have to think about that. That in itself doesn't necessarily mean they're going to bring suit, but.
Harry, what are the chances that Google finishes just as unhappy as Microsoft would have been in 1999?
In terms of litigation, yeah, that's really hard to say. At this point, it's not quite as clear that Google is doing the things that Microsoft was doing. So
in other words, Google is less aggressive for the moment
it's a very aggressive
was.
company, but whether it's excluding competitors doesn't appear as clearly as it did when the Justice Department of States were investigating what Microsoft did to Netscape in the browser market. So we have to see what's going to happen with this. But clearly, Google is in the hot seat really all over the world. They're now being investigated in Europe, and this sort of comes with the territory. I think they've always known that this was a problem. They've tried to reach out and explain what they're doing, and
all right, so it sounds like just the beginning, so we hope we can call on you again.
Yes, we want more. Yes, this may go on.
For lawyers,
we never know. It's great for lawyers.
All right, Harry.
Yeah.
We thank you for the time. Harry First joining us here, NYU law professor and also the former chief of New York State's Antitrust Bureau.